Hello, beautiful creatures. Welcome to my channel. I am Aradia, the Witch of Dark Light, and I hope you all are doing magnificent and feeling magical in these times. So today is going to be another video going over some things that are advanced witchcraft, or more better put, beyond the basics. So in this video, it's going to be about writing your own spell and a little bit about the process and what that looks like from basic to advanced. And these are in my opinion, so others may think something differently, and that's okay. I'm sharing with you guys what I feel is crossing over into the beyond the basics. So please do consider giving a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are not already, and this is your first time here. Welcome. So grab a seat. I'm going to take you through the process. First, I want to talk about, before we get into this, the things that I'm sharing are obviously not if you are in a specific practice, a specific a spiritual culture that you have to, or not have to, but that follow a set of traditions. These are things that are not really geared toward that, because you would be following those said rituals, ceremonies, practices within that tradition. This is more if you are a solitary witch, eclectic witch. So these are things speaking, not coming from a tradition, is what I want to say. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing, right, we're going to use the example of going through the process of creating a protection spell of your own, and not something that someone has put together. You can absolutely gather the inspiration from other sources, but this is going to be something that you create and something that you feel confident about, and probably add more power to it because you feel inspired because you were able to create something. So as a beginner, what you usually do is follow along with something someone has created, and this is to help you understand what each step in the process looks like, and how that feels, and how you can work with it, and also to find out what works best with you. Because in doing all of these things as a beginner, you're going to find you need to tweak some things, or some things entirely are not something that you align with. So then you go and seek out the next thing and go through that process. So when we want to create a protection spell, any spell, but we're working with protection right now. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to sit down and gather your thoughts about what it is you need this spell for, the intention. So you're going to just write all of those things out, because in this you're going to use like the keywords throughout to help you with the rest of the process. So you're going to write out, and even if it's just a sentence, I need protection for, and just elaborate on that. So once you have sat down and gathered those intentions on a paper, you are going to take a look at that, and then build your correspondences that you are going to choose from, tools, supplies that you are going to use for your spell. Now that's going to look like you looking up things for protection. You're going to look up the colors, and usually that is black, right? But there are other elements that you can add to protection that helps give it its specific instructions. So you can use blue to bring about a calming, because sometimes when you need protection, you have this anxiety because you feel like your space is being invaded. So you want to add the element of calm. So you could add colors like blue. And then you want to maybe you feel like your space has been invaded, so you need to purify it as well. Now you can use the color white, so you can incorporate all of these colors into your magic. So the next thing you're going to look at is maybe the days and the planets that you can add their elements, their influences to your magic. So this is protection. So maybe you want to look at Mars on Tuesday or Saturn on Saturday, and because they both are used in protection and baneful workings. Next, you want to think about if you're using botanicals. So there are some botanicals that you can use for protection, like rue. I like to use rue. It's a very protective plant. Or you can use, a lot of people have rosemary in their home, so you can use rosemary. So after you gather your botanicals, then maybe if you are going to use crystals, gather the crystals that you feel are in alignment with the type of protection you want to bring about. And what I like to do is when it comes to protection, I use clear crystal quartz and black tourmaline and kind of sometimes create a grid around the candles. This is the time that you're going to be gathering those tools. So you gather the candle or candles that you're going to use, the types of candles that you're going to use, because if this is a working that you really need extra oomph to go into it, you might want to get a 7-day candle, right? This 7-day candle goes for a long extended period of time. So you want to also think about that when you are putting together your tools and the things that you're going to use for your spell. Next, you want to look at symbolism, because these are the things that inform what it is that you write and what it is that you gather, your intent. So symbolism are things like shield and armor, representing like defense and protection. And you want to look at the symbolism of spears and circles, right? Because this is the element that surrounds and protects you. So gathering the symbolism also helps you write out your incantation for your spell, because you have all of this information that informs what it is that you want to say. And another thing that I like to do is I do a little research on incantations. And what I usually do, my first go-to is looking at some of the rituals and rites that were done by Egyptians and just the Sumerians, Chaldeans. I love I love looking at a lot of the things, their rituals that they have done. But you want to do the research and look at what others have written and more. So for me anyway, I like to look at more ancient sources because it just adds an extra element to it. And sometimes it's things that has been used forever. So it just kind of feels like it's more powerful, at least for me anyway. And with all of this, do not be afraid to mix and match. This is your creation, right? And like I said, most people use black for protection. You can use 3 different candle colors, right? You can use black, blue, and white, right? To create a specific type of protection that you want to bring about. So don't be afraid to mix and match things, because you may be drawn to another color because that color may be the influence that needs to go into the type of protection that you need. Now these are the steps that I like to use when creating my own personal incantation. So as a beginner, all of the steps that I have just mentioned that you go through, sometimes this would not be considered basic or beginner, because as I mentioned, when you first start working with spell work, you usually follow what has been done already because you aren't practiced enough to create your own. So you might consider what I've just said crossing over to beyond the basics, because now you are creating your own. And it's beyond the basics, and what makes it more advanced is after you begin to do all of those things, you know what other layers that you like to add to your magic. So let's get into writing your own invocation, and I'm going to take you through the steps that I like to use. So the first thing that I like to do is you will be invoking this energy, invoking or evoking, whatever you like to do, however you like to use it. That's another video. But this is the time that you are in the beginning of your incantation. You are going to be calling in whatever, whoever that you're going to be working with, that archetype, that influence, those energies. This is that time that it's like you're addressing them. So you want to address any, we're talking about protective, right? And you can work with spirits, planets, whatever you feel comfortable with. So you're going to address any protective deities, spirits, or energies you wish to call upon for assistance and guidance. So you may say things like the guardians of the, and what people usually do is call in the elements, for each direction, or spirit or protection you might call, something simple like that. And it all depends on who you will be working with, and this informs how you will be addressing them to call them forth, right? So it's like you're writing a letter and you'll say good morning, good evening, or greetings, salutations. This is what that essentially is doing. You're starting out calling in who it is that you want to work with or what. So after, this is the part, in the beginning of your incantation, you write that out. So before you write your incantation, you want to bullet point each thing and put what, you want to say for that part of the incantation. So for the invoking or calling in, you write down who it is or what it is that you're going to be calling, and what you feel you need to really, how you need to address them or it. So the next thing would be the statement of intention. So this is where you're going to, after you call them in, greetings, salutations, your statement of intention solidifies the direction of what you want to happen. So we're talking about protection. So this is where you state, I call you in to protect, and so forth. So clearly state your intention for protection. For example, I seek protection from harm and negativity, or surround me with a barrier of protection. So this is where you are stating your purpose for this spell. So we have now the body of the incantation. Now, this is the meat of your incantation. This is where you use imagery, symbolism related to protection, such as shields, armors, or light. And when you think about that, right? So you're thinking about the shield, you see a warrior. This can help you write out what it is that you want to say or call in for protection. So you can also include specific elements you would wish to invoke, like by the power of fire. Fire is a good one to call in. I am protected from all harm. Or with the strength of earth, I am grounded and secure. So this is the meat of what it is that you want to say, the body of this incantation. So you really want to, this is you giving the description of everything that you want to happen here in the body of the incantation. Is the power words. So after you have given a description of everything that you are saying is happening, that this spell is going to do, you say those power words, right? That brings it all home. And what that looks like is you're using the power words to convey strength and authority. Like this is happening. This is I am type of thing, right? So I invoke or I am protected. You always want to add that in there towards the end, your power words, so that this kind of sets the tone and saying what I have just done and what I have just said is it. It is done. It is happening. I believe it. I speak with authority. I call it forth. So you always, after you've given a description, right? So after you have called in what you want to call in, after you have called it in, you state your intention, what that is. I need protection, or I call forth protection. Then you do the body, you give the description of each element that you want to go into protection, describe it, explain it. Then you go to your power words. After you have described it, it is so, it is done, I am protected, by the power within me, it is done. Then after that, you have your closing. And the closing is usually, you hear people say, so mote it be. So this is where you are sealing and finalizing, reaffirming your intentions. So, for example, as I will it, so mote it be, or this protection is mine now and always. Okay, so now I'm going to give you an example of what the process I just broke down. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like as an incantation. And this is for protection. So this is the beginning part, right? The calling in, the invoking those energies. Spirits of the four corners, hear my plea. So this is that calling in. Protect me from all harm, so mote it be. This is the statement of intention. With this circle, I cast a shield. This is the body of the incantation. No negativity shall penetrate my protection is built. This is still the body, right? Now here comes the power words. By the power within, I command. Protection surrounds me everywhere I stand. Here's the closing. As I speak, so mote it be. The protection is sealed for eternity. So you see how I kind of rhyme? I kind of do that for most of my incantations. So I'm going to say this as a whole, but I wanted to break it down so that you can get the gist of each section. Spirits of the four corners, hear my plea. Protect me from all harm, so mote it be. With this circle, I cast a shield. No negativity shall penetrate. My protection is built. By the power within, I command. Protection surrounds me where I stand. As I speak, so mote it be. This protection is sealed for eternity. Now, the next thing is optional, but this is what I like to add to spell work and after I have, or while I'm saying the incantation. This is not a part of the writing process. This is a part of gestures and chanting. So when you incorporate gestures and visualization and chanting, this adds that additional layer that I think is the advanced part, right? You are feeling into it. You are the gestures would be like, and you know, your hands is going like you are the, what do they call a person that orchestrates the orchestra? You, right? You are that person. You are directing the symphony of magic. Those are the gestures. And chanting your words of power. I am, right? So you vibrate these things. This is that frequency that you got to think about it of like your calling, right? A telephone call. This is long distance. So you got to put extra numbers in for long distance. Right, so you need to do what it takes to make this magic reach where it needs to reach, or reach to who it needs to reach to. So you want to add those layers of magic by the gestures and the vibrating the words of power. So that's just an optional. It's not necessary, but I felt like I need to add it to what it is that I do. What I feel like maybe a more advanced person would do is really put their oomph into it, their chi into it. Like I mentioned in the previous video in this series, you want to tap into your chi and bring those gestures up into the magic when you write your incantation, as you're reciting your incantation. Now, a lot of people find this intimidating, or they just choose just to go with the flow. But I find, at least for me anyway, because it's the same thing as when I'm creating a video, some things I feel like I need to write down, which is why you'll see me grab my phone, because sometimes I forget. I go, you know, the energy in that moment is not what it was when I was writing. So I may shift a little bit and forget some of the things that I want to say. So this is why I like to write an incantation. And then I go off and do, I forget what they call it when you just, like, you're doing the bebop and you're just like, you know, you're like going along in the song and you just riff. You're riffing. So it's just like when you write down what it is that you said, or when you speak what it is that you wrote down, after that you feel it. And this goes into the symbolism, the gestures, and the vibrating. You start saying other things, because now after you have said what it is that you wanted to say, you feel it. It is igniting the passion for that magic, and then you begin to speak other things. So you just go with the flow and just say what is from your heart at that point. So some people like to just do this naturally without writing an incantation, and that's totally fine. It's whatever works for you. But I know there's some people, a lot of people, that want to understand how to write their own incantation, and sometimes it can feel intimidating. A few key pointers is think about writing a poem. A lot of times when you write a poem, this is what incantations are. Poems are speaking things from the heart, speaking feelings, speaking what people want or desire. So think about writing a poem. And so, yeah, write that poem down and add all of those elements, your intention. And when you look at some of the things that ancient civilizations have done, rituals and rites, they are really venerating what it is that they are calling forth. They're describing the thing that they are venerating. So if you're thinking about Aries, right? If you're calling for protection, I call forth this powerful protector, this powerful guardian, this I call forth you, Aries, with your strength and might, with your fierce warrior protective energies. So you start thinking about that, and a lot of what they did is that they venerated and honored and spoke the things to kind of hype up the deity, right? To hype them up, and help so that they can help you, all of those things. And it's the same way when you are in ceremony magic, or like you're creating a talisman. A lot of people want to dress the part because this invokes that energy also. So you got to think about all of these are layers of what advanced magic is, adding all of those elements to call forth the influence that you desire. So if you have any questions, let me know. This is my take on writing your incantation. And remember, this is not for those that are in traditional practices, because you usually find a structure for all of these things within those practices. So I'm speaking more for those that are eclectic and solitary. Yeah, so don't forget to like and subscribe. That is it for this video. I love you all, and into the shadows.